So there are a number of places in Ukraine which need the most immediate kind of assistance. So that is, protective shelter, water, hygiene products, those places where they are, for instance, already under fire, for instance. There's another group that are internally displaced. So millions of people in Ukraine that are moving back and forth into zones of safety. But for instance, living in shelters, and a lot of them, for instance, not gender separated, not always protected. So we need to make sure that we're supporting those who are no longer in the safety of their own homes and that are often vulnerable. So especially, if you think about elders, seniors, those who are disabled. And then you have another category of those people who have left Ukraine and are trying to rebuild their lives, largely women and children and the elderly, so about 90%. And they're still living in places like Poland. So how are we supporting the sort of infrastructure in Poland to continue to enable, 1 million plus citizens to kind of be integrated in from a school perspective, from a social security perspective, from a medical perspective? So that's another bucket. And then on the sort of horizon is this enormous task of rebuilding Ukraine.
We've got the Ukraine crisis, what's happening in Turkey and Syria. What are the other flashpoints or hotspots that you think we as a global community should be paying more attention to?
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you just think about what has fallen out of the headlines, Afghanistan's an example, right? We had a lot of headlines around Afghanistan in the wake of the Taliban takeover, but Afghanistan is one of the largest humanitarian disasters in the world right now. Yemen is another example. If you think about how often do we read about Sudan or South Sudan, and not nearly as often. There was a conflict in Ethiopia that's been going on for some time, and more people died in that conflict than in Ukraine to date, but we see very little attention to that. So some of it is, how do we balance out what we receive from the news media, for instance, and how do we have more a true global perspective about those needs? And then I think we need to also, as you say, look to where's the next horizon of crisis. So often issues of water and issues of hunger are precipitators of conflict and of broader humanitarian crisis. So if you, again, the Horn of Africa, Southern Africa, we're looking at the Sahel now, which is becoming increasingly, we're seeing increasing incidents of terrorism and also of conflict. And a lot of that is driven by issues, again, of hunger, of water scarcity. So how do we get ahead of that